Good evening. There are fears Melbourne is on the edge of a full-scale underworld war following an apparent revenge killing north of the city. 21-year-old Athan Boursinos was gunned down while getting into his BMW at Wollert this morning. 7 News can reveal he's the son of a veteran former police officer.
A 21-year-old young man steps out into a quiet laneway near his home on an ordinary morning. Moments later, gunfire shatters the calm. He falls where he stands, and the shooter disappears without a trace. Hours later, across town, a car is found burning, possibly linked to the crime. No suspect, no clear motive, and a community left in fear. This is the shocking murder of Athan Boursinos, a case that has left Melbourne searching for answers. Who planned this? And why would someone want him dead? What happened? Concise scene setter. On the morning of Thursday, July 31st, 2025, a normally quiet neighborhood in Wollert, just north of Melbourne, turned into a crime scene. It was a little before 9 a.m. when 21-year-old Athan Boursinos walked through a narrow laneway behind Champions Parade, close to his home. Out of nowhere, a man approached him. In seconds, a confrontation erupted, and multiple gunshots rang out. Neighbors rushed to their windows, stunned by the sudden violence, while others called emergency services. When police and paramedics arrived, Athan was found critically injured and died at the scene, despite urgent efforts to save him. From the very beginning, detectives made it clear this was no random act. Investigators quickly announced they were treating the shooting as a targeted attack, carried out with a clear purpose. As officers locked down the area, a manhunt began. The gunman was already on the run, setting off one of Melbourne's most urgent and unsettling homicide investigations in recent memory. Victim profile, verified basics only. The young man at the center of this tragedy was Athan Boursinos, also known by his full name, Athanasios Boursinos. At just 21 years old, he was described by friends and family as a loyal and loving person whose life was cut short in a way no one could have imagined. Local reports revealed that Athan came from a family deeply connected to law enforcement. His father is a former Victoria police officer, a detail that added even more shock to the case. For many in the community, it was unthinkable that someone from a family with such close ties to the police would become the victim of such a brutal and targeted attack. Athan was also engaged to be married. In the days following his death, his fiancée shared heartbreaking tributes online, painting a picture of a young couple with plans for a future that will now never happen. His family also released statements through friends, asking for privacy and justice as they struggled to cope with their loss. Adding another layer to the timeline, public reports confirmed that Athan was due to appear in court later that very morning on unrelated legal matters. Details of those proceedings were not publicly released in full, and reporting varied, so investigators have not connected them directly to the shooting. This combination of factors, a young age, a strong family background, a fiancé mourning his loss, and a looming court appearance, has left both the public and police with a complex picture of a victim whose life ended amid circumstances that remain deeply mysterious. For now, what is clear is that Athan Boursinos was more than just a name in the headlines. He was a son, a fiancé, and a member of a family now seeking answers in a case that has shaken their lives forever. Minute by minute of the shooting, what's on record. Just before 9 a.m. on July 31st, 2025, the morning routine in Wollert was interrupted by a burst of sudden violence. The attack happened along Game Lane, a narrow passageway that runs behind Champions Parade, surrounded by family homes and small parks. It was the kind of place where neighbors normally walked their dogs or kids rode bikes, a quiet spot that seemed far removed from danger. According to police reports, Athan Boursinos encountered his attacker in this very laneway. Witnesses told investigators they heard a series of rapid gunshots, followed by shouting. Some neighbors initially thought the loud cracks were fireworks or construction noises until they realized what was happening and rushed to call emergency services. A silver or gray BMW was seen near the area around the time of the shooting. Detectives are now trying to determine whether this vehicle was connected to the crime, possibly used by the shooter to escape. This detail has become a central focus of the investigation. as cars like this are often crucial in tracing routes or identifying suspects through nearby surveillance cameras. One particularly haunting detail emerged from early reporting by some media outlets. According to witnesses interviewed by journalists, moments before the fatal shots rang out, Athan was heard saying the words, "Do it." Authorities have not confirmed this statement, and it remains a detail attributed solely to those reports, but it adds a chilling and deeply mysterious element to the final moments before his death. When officers arrived at the scene, they found Athan critically wounded. Despite immediate efforts from first responders, he died before he could be moved to the hospital. The laneway was quickly cordoned off, and investigators began a systematic search for clues, shell casings, footprints, and anything that could help identify the killer. The location of the crime has posed unique challenges for police. Game Lane is lined with back fences and has limited visibility from the street, giving the shooter both privacy and a fast escape route. Detectives believe this setting was carefully chosen, reinforcing their view that the murder was targeted rather than random. In just a few terrifying minutes, a young man's life was ended, a community was traumatized, and a complex investigation began. One that would soon span beyond Wollert and into surrounding suburbs as new evidence emerged. This brief but brutal encounter left behind more questions than answers, setting the stage for one of Melbourne's most urgent homicide cases in recent memory. Immediate aftermath and early evidence. In the hours following the shooting, police activity stretched far beyond the laneway in Wollert. As homicide detectives began piecing together what happened, a crucial discovery was made that same morning: a burnt-out vehicle. The car was found on Amory Street in Reservoir, roughly 13 kilometers away from the crime scene. Its condition suggested it had been deliberately set on fire, a tactic commonly used to destroy forensic evidence like fingerprints, DNA, or gunshot residue. Detectives immediately began working to determine if this vehicle had been used as a getaway car by the shooter. At this stage, police have not publicly confirmed the link, but its timing and proximity made it a significant focus of the investigation. Authorities issued a strong public appeal for information, asking anyone who was driving in either Wollert or Reservoir that morning to check dash cam footage. They also urged residents and businesses with CCTV cameras near Game Lane or Amory Street to review their recordings for any suspicious vehicles or people. Detectives believe these videos could help track the shooter's movements before and after the attack. The investigation is now being led by Detective Inspector Dean Thomas from Victoria Police's Homicide Squad. In a statement to the public, Inspector Thomas confirmed that police are treating the killing as a targeted attack, though he stopped short of revealing potential motives. His comments emphasized that finding the shooter and understanding exactly why Athan was killed are the top priorities for investigators. As of the latest updates, no arrests have been made and no suspect descriptions have been released. This lack of immediate breakthroughs has fueled anxiety in the community, leaving residents deeply unsettled. Police patrols in the area have been increased to reassure locals, and investigators continue to work around the clock, following leads and processing evidence. The discovery of the Reservoir car has become one of the key threads detectives are pursuing. If it is confirmed to be connected, it could reveal escape routes, timelines, and possibly even the identities of those involved. For now, it remains a chilling piece of the puzzle in a case that grows more complex by the day. The early hours of the investigation were crucial, canvassing witnesses, collecting physical evidence from 2 different suburbs, and preserving the crime scene. From this point forward, the focus shifted to building a timeline, tracking every movement between the laneway in Wollert and the burnt-out vehicle in Reservoir, in hopes of bringing Athan Boursinos' killer to justice. Lines of inquiry: reported, careful, attributed. From the very beginning, police were clear. This was a targeted attack, not a random act of violence. The precision of the shooting and the rapid disappearance of the gunman suggested planning rather than impulse. Media outlets echoed this point, framing the murder as deliberate and methodical. Some reports have gone further, exploring possible underworld connections. A few newspapers and online outlets have noted that Athan's name surfaced in prior reporting connected to individuals linked to organized crime groups in earlier investigations. However, it is extremely important to emphasize that these are media observations. not official statements from police. No evidence has been presented publicly to confirm any direct involvement, and investigators have not publicly commented on this angle. At this stage, the only official stance is that detectives believe the attack was targeted, meaning Athan was specifically chosen by his killer or killers. The exact motive remains unknown. Any links to broader criminal networks are purely speculative unless confirmed by investigators. This cautious approach matters. In high-profile cases like this, rumor can spread quickly and damage both the investigation and the reputations of those involved. As of now, no one has been charged over Athan's murder, and police continue to appeal for concrete information rather than theories. For the public, this means one thing: treat everything outside of verified police statements as unconfirmed. The homicide squad is focused on facts that can stand up in the court, while media coverage, even from reputable outlets, must be understood as reporting rather than proof. The Wollert Reservoir Trail. The discovery of the burnt-out car on Amory Street in Reservoir has become one of the most important clues in this case. While detectives have not confirmed its exact role, its timing and condition strongly suggest it may have been part of the shooter's escape plan. In Melbourne's recent history, burning getaway cars has been a tactic repeatedly used in gangland-style attacks. Destroying the vehicle removes a wealth of evidence that could otherwise tie suspects to a crime scene. Items like fingerprints, blood traces, shell casings, and fibers can all be wiped out by fire, making it much harder for forensic teams to build a case. This car, found just 13 kilometers from Game Lane, may have been abandoned and set alight shortly after the shooting. The distance between the two sites gives investigators a possible escape route to analyze. Police are now working to establish whether there were cameras along that route and whether any drivers in the area captured footage on dash cams. In cases like this, detectives typically follow a series of investigative steps. They'll conduct ballistic testing on recovered bullets or shell casings to determine the type of weapon used and whether it has been linked to previous crimes. Investigators will also examine cell phone data to map movements of suspects and potential witnesses during critical time windows. Finally, police will build a digital trail, piecing together CCTV footage and dash cam recordings to trace every step the shooter may have taken from the laneway in Wollert to the burnt car in Reservoir. This slow, methodical process can take weeks or even months, but is essential in establishing a timeline that can hold up in court. The car is more than just a burned shell. It could be the key to unlocking the identity of the killer. If investigators can trace its origin and movements, they may be able to connect it to the person who pulled the trigger, bringing them one step closer to solving Athan Boursinos' murder. Community impact. The murder of Athan Boursinos didn't just devastate his family and friends, it sent a wave of fear through the entire Wollert community. The shooting took place in broad daylight, just before 9 a.m., at a time when many residents were starting their day. Parents were walking their kids to school, others were heading to work, and nearby shops and parks were beginning to fill with people. Game Lane, where the attack happened, sits behind Champions Parade, a strip lined with family homes and close to local amenities. It's the kind of suburban area where residents typically feel safe, far removed from the kinds of violent crimes that make headlines. That sense of security was shattered in an instant when the sound of multiple gunshots ripped through the air. Witnesses described a chaotic scene. Some neighbors peeked out from behind curtains, unsure of what they were hearing, while others rushed to call emergency services. The sight of police flooding the area, followed by homicide detectives setting up a crime scene, brought home the terrifying reality. A young man had been killed right in their midst, and the shooter was still on the run. The proximity of the attack to schools and playgrounds deeply unsettled families. Many parents spoke to local reporters about their fears, saying they no longer felt comfortable letting their children walk alone or play outside without supervision. Questions about public safety quickly became a dominant theme in local media coverage. The story drew significant attention across Melbourne. News helicopters circled overhead, broadcasting images of a quiet residential area turned into a heavily guarded crime scene. The unusual timing of the shooting, so early in the day and in such a public setting, added to the shock and fueled community concerns about whether more violence could follow. Local leaders and police worked to reassure residents. Extra patrols were deployed, and authorities encouraged the public to remain calm while the investigation continued. Still, the fact that no suspect had been arrested left many feeling vulnerable. For Wollert, a growing suburb known for its multicultural population and family-friendly vibe, this murder marked a turning point. It forced the community to confront the reality that serious targeted violence can erupt anywhere, even in the most seemingly peaceful neighborhoods. In the days after the shooting, tributes piled up near the scene, flowers, handwritten notes, and candles placed along the laneway. These quiet gestures of mourning stood in stark contrast to the violence that had unfolded there, serving as a reminder that behind every headline, there are families, neighbors, and entire communities struggling to make sense of the loss. The emotional impact of this crime will linger long after the investigation ends, with many residents calling for better safety measures and more visible policing to prevent another tragedy like this from happening again. The unsolved status fact remains painfully clear. This case is still unsolved. Despite weeks of intensive police work, the identity of the gunman is still unknown, and no one has been publicly named as a suspect. Detectives have confirmed that the attack was targeted, but they have not released any official statements about a motive. Whether the murder was linked to personal conflict, organized crime, or another reason entirely remains part of an active investigation. Victoria Police continue to pursue multiple leads, examining evidence from both the shooting site in Wollert and the burnt-out car found in Reservoir. CCTV footage, dashcam submissions, and forensic testing are ongoing, but investigators have made it clear that solving this case will take time. Authorities have repeatedly appealed to the public for information. Crime Stoppers has been highlighted as the main point of contact for anonymous tips, and police are urging anyone who may have seen suspicious activity in either area to come forward. It's important to remember that at this stage, no one has been charged, and all individuals mentioned in media reports remain innocent unless proven guilty in a court of law. Speculation and unverified claims can harm both the investigation and the people involved. As frustrating as the lack of answers may be, investigators are focused on building a strong, evidence-based case, one that can hold up in court and deliver justice for Athan Boursinos and his grieving family. Verified timeline. To understand the sequence of events, it's important to piece together what has been confirmed by police and reliable reports. On the morning of July 31st, 2025, just before 9 a.m., Athan Boursinos was walking through Game Lane, a narrow laneway behind Champions Parade in Wollert. At some point during those moments, a man approached him, and multiple gunshots were fired. The sound of the shots startled neighbors, some of whom initially thought it might have been fireworks or construction noise. Very quickly, they realized the severity of the situation and called emergency services. When first responders arrived, they found Athan critically injured. Despite their urgent efforts to save him, he died at the scene, his life ending only meters from his home. Shortly after the shooting, police received reports of a burnt-out vehicle discovered on Amory Street in Reservoir, approximately 13 kilometers away. Detectives immediately began examining whether this vehicle was connected to the crime, suspecting it might have been used as a getaway car. While its exact role remains under investigation, its condition and location made it a key piece of evidence early on. As the day unfolded, Victoria Police's homicide squad, under the leadership of Detective Inspector Dean Thomas, took control of the investigation. Officers moved quickly to canvass the area for CCTV footage, dashcam recordings, and witness statements, hoping to capture any clue that might track the shooter's movements before and after the attack. Later that morning, police issued a public appeal, urging anyone who had been in the Wollert or Reservoir areas around the time of the shooting to come forward. They highlighted Crime Stoppers as a secure and anonymous way for residents to share information without fear of reprisal. As of the most recent updates, no arrests have been made, and no suspect descriptions have been released to the public. The case remains active and ongoing, with detectives continuing to analyze evidence and chase down leads as they work to piece together the final movements of both Athan and his killer on that tragic morning. This timeline shows just how quickly the events unfolded and how rapidly the investigation expanded, from a quiet laneway in Wollert to a citywide effort to track down the person responsible. Media reporting and attribution discipline. In a case like this, where tensions are high and information spreads quickly, it's crucial to separate confirmed facts from details that have only been reported by the media. Everything known about the time of the shooting, the exact location, and the police assessment that this was a targeted attack comes directly from official Victoria police statements. These are the verified, on-the-record details that form the backbone of the investigation. On the other hand, some aspects of this case have come to light only through media reporting. For example, several outlets mentioned that Athan was scheduled to appear in court later that day on unrelated legal matters, but police have never confirmed this publicly. Similarly, quotes from neighbors describing what they saw or heard, like the sound of multiple gunshots or their initial confusion, come from interviews with journalists rather than investigators. Even the chilling report that Athan may have said "do it" just before being shot comes solely from witness accounts reported by news outlets and has not been verified by police. By making this distinction clear, viewers can better understand what is firmly established and what remains uncertain. This approach builds trust and avoids spreading unconfirmed claims that could harm the investigation or those involved. In true crime reporting, credibility comes from sticking to facts and acknowledging when information is still developing. Outstanding questions, no speculation. Even with the evidence gathered so far, many critical questions remain unanswered. Who was the shooter, and what was their motive for targeting Athan Boursinos? Was the burned-out car found in Reservoir definitely used as a getaway vehicle, or was its discovery a coincidence? Could CCTV footage from Wollert, Reservoir, or along nearby roads reveal the shooter's escape route, or capture images of other vehicles that were involved? Detectives are also likely examining cell phone data, looking for activity that might place a suspect near the scene at the crucial moments before and after the shooting. Were there any calls, texts, or location pings that could help map out the movements of those involved? These questions are at the heart of the investigation, but for now, they remain unresolved. Until police release more information, the answers are known only to investigators and, potentially, the killer themselves. By presenting these as open questions rather than speculating, we respect both the complexity of the investigation and the need for solid, court-ready evidence. Closing and call to action. The murder of Athan Boursinos is a tragedy that has shaken Wollert and the wider Melbourne community. A 21-year-old man was shot dead in broad daylight, just steps from his home, in what police believe was a carefully planned, targeted attack. The shooter remains at large, and despite intense efforts by the homicide squad, no arrests have been made. This case is still unfolding, and the answers will only come from careful police work and verified information. As investigators continue to follow every lead, it's vital for the public to rely on official updates and avoid the spread of rumors or speculation that could harm the process. If you value fact-checked, responsible, true crime reporting, make sure to subscribe to this channel. We'll bring you updates only when confirmed information is released by authorities. Together, we can follow this case with accuracy and respect for the victim, his family, and the community searching for justice.